Greetings, this is Griff Ruby with yet another review, another short story from Isaac Asimov. This very next one appears in the very next issue of Startling from the previous one, and that story is called, he does not get the cover in any way, shape, or form, his name's not on the cover, but on the other hand, it is in the table of contents, as always, listed under Short Stories, Isaac Asimov, Monkey's Fingers, Isaac Asimov, page 77. There's a little blurb. I almost have read it, but I'll read it out anyway. Let little Rollo, cybernetic simian, solve your problems. So, I guess so, sort of anyway. That's on page 77. It comes with a nice piece of artwork. Of course, republications of the story do not come with. There's our various figures involved in the story. Okay, in the front there is little Rollo typing away. I noticed there's little letters EMSH, that's artist signing his name. Okay, hovering over that is the book editor Lemuel Hoskins, standing kind of in the background looking like some young college grad with his bow tie, is the author Marmee Talon. And on the other side, in the traditional scientist white coat and necktie there, is, well, their local scientist and also the trainer and manipulator of the monkey, Arnott Torgerson. Now, going through the text, apart from that, oh, and there's one more thing. Again, the blurb on the page, very similar to that on the table of contents, says, let little Rollo, the cybernetic simian, solve your problems. Pretty much the same. And that's all. The text, so far as I can tell, appears to be identical to that which has been republished in by Jupiter. The title, the text, all that's the same, but you lose the little blurbs, you lose the artwork. That's all you lose. So what's going on in the text of this story? Well, you got an author trying to sell a story to an editor. This is somewhat, Dr. Asimov actually describes this, little commentary about the story in By Jupiter, that this is to some degree somewhat autobiographical. Himself trying to sell a particular story, if you must know, it was C-Chute, or the C-Chute, depending upon how you go by it, to Horace Gold, who ultimately did publish the story. But here, the author's trying to sell the story to the editor. The editor's got his own thoughts about changing the story in serious draconian ways, that don't really make any sense. The author knows what he's doing, and editors always seem to have their own ideas. I've never heard that problem before. So this is about that sort of thing. But then we enter in something else that's kind of cute. We're going to bring in, well, the monkey is really a little more than a computer augmented typing machine. So I feel sorry for the poor animal this has been done to. He's got a wire, surgically inserted into his head. You can actually see it in the picture there if you look carefully. But fortunately, this is a story, and therefore no actual monkeys were actually harmed in the drafting of this story. So, but at any rate, the idea is give it something objective, and a monkey will type out, the story. Get it started, and he'll actually finish it for you and duplicate. And if it's the sort of thing that would make a great work of a great author, it'll probably be virtually the same. They can actually do one with a demonstration of a Shakespeare's soliloquy, to be or not to be. And the monkey goes off with all of that, changes a word or something, but otherwise gives us exactly what Shakespeare gave us. And supposedly this is all independently recreated by the monkey, maybe in cooperation with the computer he's attached to. That's not entirely clear how much is the monkey and how much is the computer that supposedly augments the monkey's ability and literacy and so forth. So So this author says, I think this is better this way, and you're saying it's better that way. Well, let's go to Dr. Arne Torgerson, who's got this whole new thing going with this monkey. So they go and they see what it is. The monkey did change one small thing in Shakespeare. In other words, instead of a sea of troubles, you know, to be or not to be, well, let's see, struggle by the sea of troubles and by thereby ending them. Let's see if I can find the actual passage. Okay. He changes it into a host of troubles because it's a little bit more literalist. Sea of trouble is more poetic. To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether to nobles in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a host of troubles. You know, where Shakespeare had written a sea of troubles, an ocean of troubles. So, host is a little bit more literally precise. Sea has a certain poetic feel to it that, that's why Shakespeare wrote it that way. So he couldn't duplicate his poetry, but he could duplicate everything else he said, and maybe by being a little bit more literal, arguably improve it. You know, certainly preserve the rhythm of it, preserve the meaning of it, and it had a little bit more literal understandability, a bit more literally understandable there too. So, you know, is it an improvement or not is a question, but here we go. This is what the monkey did. Well, the monkey is then given some of the story that the writer has written. And there's even a few detailed allusions to the story. The person climbing around outside the rocket and trying to find some way to heroically steal the rocket back from the aliens that had taken it over from the humans and were now taking the rocket and the humans aboard as prisoners and spoils of war. So, I mean, it actually has a few vague allusions to actual details of the C-Chute plot, because that was the story that inspired and his attempt to sell it to Horace Gold, who, you know, although his magazine was definitely one of the top-notch magazines, he personally wasn't a very easy person to deal with most of the time. So that would be what that's based on. So what happens here is that the monkey types it out, and the funny thing is, the monkey types it out the way that the editor favored. And the editor's ready to say, aha, see, it showed that I'm right. You should make this change to your story. And the guy says, but it's like Shakespeare and this monkey's version of Shakespeare. What's more poetic? A host of troubles or a sea of troubles? Maybe we would have lost some real human poetry. This is, after all, a computer and a monkey, you know, trying to duplicate a literary work and doing, on the whole, not a bad job of it, but obviously having a preference that follows some kind of a machine specification. So it actually shows that the more human way to do things would have been to let the author's original stand. Well, let's just say it's kind of a clever story how this could have gone either way. If the monkey had favored the author's version, then the author could say, see, this is the way to do it. Either way, you know, heads I win, tails you lose. That's the gimmick of the story. I guess I may have given a bit away, but it reads reasonably well. It's meant to be humorous, and actually the heads I win, tails you lose aspect does kind of come in kind of nicely at the end and give the story some real justification. I mean, you kind of like these characterizations, and anybody who's ever written a story and published it or tried to sell it or get it past an editor who's got their own ideas about what a story should be about should be very much able to identify with a story like that. Well, and that's about all there is. It's really a real short. It's a swift read, and well, that's all there is to say on that. Thanks for listening.